Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the second of our, the second community information session that Newcastle County is hosting to discuss the NCC CARES grant funding opportunities that we have through Newcastle County. So I just want to first say, you are welcome to, this is an open and public meeting. You are welcome if you've got questions to request to ask your question throughout the meeting. I ask until we get to a place where we're taking questions that everyone, Rick Barnett, can you please mute your phone, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask that everyone mute their phone until they have or they're ready to ask their questions. So I just wanted to first introduce myself. My name is Tamara Folks. I am the Director of Economic Development for Newcastle County. I have some of my team members joining me today. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce them as well. The Newcastle County Executive is with us, Matt Meyer. The Chief Administrative Officer is also joining us, Vanessa Phillips. The Chief of Staff, Andrea Alman, is with us today. The PR Officer for Newcastle County, Jess Brokenball, is with us as well. We, for all of our meetings, we do make sure that we have representation from the Department of Law just to answer any questions that folks may have regarding processes and requirements. So Nick Brannick is the lawyer from the Department of Law that is working with me through the Innovation Grant and is joining us today. So before we actually get into the meat of the meeting, I just want to open the conversation and turn the floor over to the county executive to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Tamara, and welcome everyone. My name is Matt Meyer. I'm the Newcastle County Executive. Just three very quick things I want to say. The first is that for Newcastle County government, our 2,051 employees, this COVID-19 crisis is still a crisis. It's still all hands on deck. So that's the first thing you should know, that our county government, which traditionally is not involved in public health, is not involved in a number of things we're going to talk about today, distance learning, for example. Our role, as we see it, as you probably do in whatever organization or company you work for, is to do whatever we can to assist the community to get us through this as quickly as possible. Of course, we're doing that in part through COVID-19 testing, free, fast, what I'm being told is the most available and quickest testing publicly available in the country, that we offer 10 times a week, 6 days a week now, but also through these grant opportunities. The second thing I want to emphasize to you is that there are people in our community who are really struggling right now. I think we all know that. They might be struggling in terms of health. They might be struggling in terms of losing their small business. They might be struggling in terms of losing their job. They might be struggling with some sort of mental health, mental illness, substance use issue, or some other issue, food insecurity, housing, shelter insecurity. And what we're trying to do is identify people and get them resources however we can. And that's pretty much what today is about, making sure all the details are taken care of, which leads me to my third point, which is that thanks to the great work of our Newcastle County government in collaboration with Senator Carper, Senator Coons, Representative Blunt, Rochester, we were able to secure $322 million of CARES Act COVID-19 assistance back in April. And this is a big part of making sure we get that assistance out to you. Now, it's not always easy as it sounds, just identifying people in need and getting them resources. There are all sorts of federal requirements that we need to adhere to. And a lot of today is not only about making sure that we adhere to those federal requirements, but it's also about making sure that we're selecting people in an unbiased way, that we're observing all legal and ethical requirements and making good decisions with taxpayer money. So thank you so much finally to Tamara Folks, who normally is in charge of economic development, is still in charge of economic development. That's a full-time job. but these days she's taken it upon herself to make sure everyone in the community is fully aware of these grant opportunities. So don't only listen today and ask questions, but please spread the word. This will be recorded. We want as many people as possible in our community know about the availability of these funds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I do want to make sure, thank you for bringing up that we are recording this line. If for some reason you're uncomfortable with being recorded, you are welcome to send your question in the chat and we can answer it via the chat. You can send it to us via email if you're not able to stay on the call because it's being recorded. On one of the slides, I will share the email addresses for all of us, but I'll make sure that we get that out if you send it in the chat that you're not able to stay on the line. So I am going to just share my screen really quickly. And while I'm doing that, I did want to shout out another one of my colleagues that's with us. The policy advisor, Sue Moore is with us today as well. So this is a full team effort. Okay, guys. Alrighty, so what I think will work best is if we go into each funding opportunity and summarize the actual opportunity itself, talk a little bit about the deadline, talk a little bit about the timeline in terms of if you submit a grant request, when you should hear back from us, et cetera, what happens after we get your application. And prior to that, I just wanted to mention to everyone, you'll see on your screen on the right side of this page that for general questions, each of the managers of these individual grants, their email addresses are listed. You are welcome to shoot us an email if you have a question that is not answered today or the information is not available on our page. We also have partnered with the Delaware Small Business Development Center out of the University of Delaware for technical assistance and entrepreneurship support. So if you have questions, if you are interested in some additional help to confirm that your application is as competitive as it could possibly be, the SBDC, this is what they do regularly, but we did partner with them specifically to assist us with this grant to make sure that you get all the information and help that you need to submit for funding. So I'd like to start with the health equity funding opportunity. The manager of that particular grant is the Chief Administrative Officer, Vanessa Phillips, and you are welcome to take it away.
Thank you, Tamara. Good afternoon, everyone. The Health Equity Grant Program is part of a direct response to the work the Newcastle County's CARES Act Task Force Health Equity Committee started, which was launched on June 18, 2020. I, along with community member Alicia Clark, co-chaired the committee. The committee was charged with creating a grant program to address health disparities in vulnerable communities disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. We focused our discussions on underlying health conditions such as obesity, hypertension, and diabetes, and other root causes of unequal health outcomes in our communities. To assist our efforts, the county executive has set aside $10 million for this grant program. These funds will be used on immediate and urgent needs of nonprofits, grassroots organizations, and small businesses who are working to decrease healthcare inequities caused by the coronavirus pandemic. We have our application on the CARES Act website. The deadline to submit an application and accompanying proposal is Friday, September 11th at 11:59 p.m. After we receive all applications, the committee will be reviewing the applications to make sure that it meets all of our requirements addressing the coronavirus pandemic, and also making sure that it is direct funding to these organizations. We are not looking for proposals that develops a new RFP process for organizations we're looking to provide direct funding. At this time, I'll take any questions from the audience.
And so if you have a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself and just state your name so we know for the record who's speaking.
Yeah, Vanessa, it's Bob Wasserbach. I work for Newcastle County. Does this grant program or any of the grant programs being addressed today have a maximum amount of the grant that you can apply for?
No, there's no maximum. We have been allocated $10 million, but this is an initial distribution from the county executive. So if there are any proposals that go over that amount, we will still consider the proposal, but at this time, we are not setting a maximum amount for the grants.
Thank you.
And Bob, that is true for all of the grants. We want the proposals to be true in terms of what the cost would be to implement your idea. If for some reason it goes over, the allotted funds or the funds we have left after dispersing some of the funds, then we will do our very best to determine if there's additional funding available or what our other options are. But we don't want anyone to limit their program or their idea based on a dollar amount.
Thank you, Tamara.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Purcell. I'm the Executive Director of Wilmington Senior Center, and we wanted to use some technology, some tablets, to work with our members on some intellectual engagement to stave off memory loss, also encourage the use of the tablet and technology for telemedicine and telehealth. Would that be a qualifying subject?
You're muted, Vanessa.
Thank you. I would definitely need to read your proposal to see how it addresses health inequities in our most vulnerable communities. So I would need some more information as to whether it will fall under the health equity grant. But we also have an innovation grant that Tamara will be talking about, and perhaps you want to submit under that grant as well.
Right, okay, because I was looking at both of them. Because one of the things that we're finding is with seniors being so isolated, especially our older seniors, they have experiencing some memory and intellectual engagement deficits.
Okay.
They're not as active as they once were, and because they're so isolated, we want to get over that barrier.
Kathleen, did you get my email reply to your question?
I did.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to it because I've been so busy in meetings today, but I will.
Worries.
Yeah,
no worries.
Because I am looking at both.
I just wanted to mention that if what you need does not fall within innovation or health equity, the types of purchases that you're discussing in terms of tablets to assist seniors with telehealth, those are qualifying costs for the Delaware Relief Grant. So in the email that I sent you, I provided the link, the contact information for the state's Division of Small Business where that grant is being housed. They can assist you and work with you. In addition, if you want to reach out to the SBDC to kind of talk through your proposal and identify not only which grants are available right now, but other grants that aren't COVID related, they'd be able to kind of align you with what makes sense for the Wilmington Senior Center.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then if you have more questions, of course, reach out and we'll make sure that you get connected to the SBDC and the division directly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Great.
you're welcome. Were there any other questions regarding health equity funding opportunity?
Yes, good afternoon. Doris Griffin with the Delaware Adolescent Program Incorporated. I just wanted to ensure that I understood Vanessa, are we able to apply for more than one grant heading at the same time?
Yes.
Thank you.
If it qualifies, Dr. Griffin, for the health equity, or if your idea is innovative, it doesn't currently exist in that form, and you want to see, we are actually working together to make sure if we have ideas that kind of overlap, that if we're able to provide funding from both pots, if you will, that we work through those. But if you have questions specifically about your proposal, you can reach out to us directly or the SBDC to try to figure out which one it fits in. But we definitely want, if you feel that it fits in both, we want to make sure that we're getting your proposals in both pots. But you would qualify for both, even if it's two different ideas.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're gonna move on. This is definitely not the last opportunity for you to ask questions, but we'll move on to the summaries of the other funding opportunities, and then we can come back for questions regarding all of them in just a moment. So one of my colleagues, Jessica Brokenball, the PR officer for the county, is going to assist me with summarizing the innovation grant funding opportunity, and talk a little bit about what that entails, what we're looking for regarding the applications, and then what happens after we receive your application.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Fulks, for allowing me to be part of this conversation and share this really amazing opportunity with the community. The Innovation Grant is a Newcastle County opportunity seeking technology solutions to problems that stem from COVID-19. These are solutions that are simply derived from COVID and nothing previously planned or budgeted or any current program that you may have been implementing prior to the beginning impacts of COVID. The solutions must attempt to create an increased local regional technical impact and create new jobs and attract new tech companies and talent to the region. We've heard that our applications are open. We open our applications on August 24th. Our deadline for receiving applications is September 11th. And for this grant, we are eagerly looking to review applications and disperse funds by the end of September, which is very aggressive, but we understand the need to get this money out on the street and to begin to develop programs and opportunities within the innovative space. All the documents and updates pertaining to the CARES Act are on our website, and I think my colleague Andrea Almond shared that in the chat. I recommend for you to take a look at that. There are tons of information about all the grant opportunities on there, and I don't think we've missed anything on a question that may not be on there. So I encourage you to review that site in depth. The purpose of the program is simply because the corona pandemic created such a unique opportunity to develop innovative solutions to problems that stem from COVID. The impact of the pandemic infiltrated every aspect of daily life, and I think we know that, and we're seeing that as we're in our communities and in our day-to-day work. This grant seeks solutions to problems adapting to the new normal. And priority will be given to solutions that create an increased regional tech impact, create new jobs, and attract companies to the area, and obviously and talent to the region. The application process is open to any entity that qualifies to do business in Delaware, and all the solutions must meet federal Treasury guidelines for CARES Act funding. And you will find that information on our website as well, and the Department of Treasury has done a great job of outlining what that is as well. Are there any questions pertaining to the Innovation Grant? Well,
Okay.
we look forward to receiving your applications.
That means you did such an amazing job, Jess. No questions. So the next grant that we'll talk about, our funding opportunity we'll talk about, is food assistance. Super important. What we've found, throughout the county is that everyone is hurting, and we realize the importance of making sure that food scarcity is not one of those concerns that is not addressed with gusto. And so the food assistance grant was developed to identify, and I won't actually talk anymore because I have my colleague, Andrea Almond, here to talk to us a little bit about the food assistance program, the deadline, and what applicants could expect after Friday.
Thank you, Tamara, and thanks for all of you for dialing in. I know we also have a number of aides to the county council members who are on the line this afternoon, so thank you for joining us and for helping us to spread the word about these opportunities to the organizations that are within your respective districts. And again, we're happy to answer any questions. Vanessa opened by talking about the committee approach that the county executive set up. And again, the deliberations of those committees are driving a lot of what you're hearing today, as well as some other decisions that have already been announced. I've worked with a group that was focused on supporting nonprofits, and while we covered a number of areas, one of the things that stood out both in our committee as well as a parallel committee that was focused on assisting the most vulnerable, as Tamara noted, is the topic of food insecurity. We know that demand for food support has gone up across the county, across the state, and that organizations large and small have really stepped up, and have done an amazing job of helping to provide food for our neighbors. That may have taken multiple forms. That could be in the form of serving meals. It could be in the form of boxes of items being delivered to people's trunks as they pulled through parking lots. And so what we wanted to acknowledge with this grant is the fact that work has happened across the county by organizations large and small. So this opportunity, this one has a more aggressive deadline. The application is a little bit simpler, but we want to, and the reason for the timeline is to help us to get money flowing as quickly as possible. So with this application, we're not looking for a lot of financial details or a lot of background information on the organization itself, but really we want to understand how many people have you been feeding over the course of May, June, and July in particular, so that we can use that as a proxy for for how we might equitably distribute funding to the organizations that are involved in this space. So as with the other applications that we're discussing today, they're all, it's online at the caresact.nccde.org website that's in the chat box. And our deadline for this one is this Friday night at 11:59 p.m. And we will be looking then to make decisions pretty quickly in the week and a half following that. This one is a little bit simpler because we're not necessarily reviewing the merits of every application, right? Because we're not asking for as much detail as, say, Vanessa and Tamara might be looking for in their applications, but we really want to understand how many people have you been feeding in this important and difficult pandemic period. So happy to take any questions that you might have on this topic.
Yeah, Audrey, it's Bob Wasserbach again.
Hi, Bob.
Hi. I know there's some animal shelters in Newcastle County that have been distributing food to people who can't get out and shop because of the pandemic, or maybe they're having financial difficulties because of the pandemic. Can animal shelters apply for a grant under this program, or is it just for people food?
Wow, Bob, we haven't had that question come up before, and so I appreciate you raising it. I would say the way it's written, we are pretty focused on those entities that are providing food for the humans in the household. But I certainly hear your point around the additional support that some shelters have provided to the the owners of those animals. So the way this first round at a minimum is structured, it would just be for those who are feeding the humans in the family. But that's something I'd like to take under consideration, because we are anticipating, depending on what the demand looks like once we start to receive all these applications, that we may be able to do a second round and could add that parameter in there. So thanks for asking the question, Bob.
Thank you.
And I do want to add, Bob, so in the past, the Newcastle County has supported the food pantry at Faithful Friends. And so we provide a grant because they do have that food pantry for pet owners that are have come across hard times and need some help. So I would suggest while we figure out, if it qualifies, directly for the food assistance grant, I would request that you email us the proposal, because it may be something, although we've suspended the NCC Cares grant, the original one that we had while we focus on COVID, it may still be something that we can work through that may not necessarily be COVID related, but we still might be able to get some assistance through another avenue. So if you have contact with those organizations, if you ask them to just reach out to us directly or email the proposal so we can figure out how we can make that fit, or if we are able to fund it through a different source.
So actually email you or somebody else?
You can email me.
Okay.
Just to make,
you,
yeah,
Sarah.
you can email me. That was a great question. I can't believe we didn't think about that, Andrea. We're animal lovers.
We hear new ideas every day.
I know.
What
Okay,
other questions do people on the line have? And then we can move on.
Yeah. And we'll come back we'll open it up for more questions. Andrea, are you also helping me with the virtual learning grant? Yes? Okay.
Absolutely, I would be happy to. So the fourth opportunity that we have announced and wanted to share today, this may be a little bit less relevant for everybody on the phone, but we want to make you aware of it as well. The county executive has announced a funding opportunity for all of the public and charter schools in the, excuse me, in Newcastle County to assist with needs that they may have to enhance their distance learning opportunities. We know that that many students are, if not all, are experiencing some version of distance learning, and we want Newcastle County to not just be a place where distance learning is possible, but it's actually a great experience for the students and teachers. And so on a per student basis, schools are able to apply by giving us information about how they would intend to use that money in support of distance learning. And that is more of a formulaic response, but we do want to see the details of how the school would intend to expend the funds. That deadline is a little bit farther out. That is September 18th, so a week later than the Health Equity and the Innovation Grant, to give the schools time to think about how they would expend those monies. But that is a fund basically to the tune of $50 a student at the respective public schools and charter schools across Newcastle County. So the principals or fiscal agents for those schools are the ones who can apply for that funding.
Thank you. And so I wanted to mention that Newcastle County has also provided funding assistance to HUD to support their housing programs. As what we do know is that we have renters as well as homeowners that are experiencing some hurt right now. And so we are supporting the HUD housing program. We also are supporting the Delaware Relief Grant that is housed out of the division or being managed by the Division of Small Business. So the grants being managed in-house by Newcastle County, those 4 ideas are very specific. However, if you know, or if you are an entrepreneur or a nonprofit administrator executive, and you also have additional needs that do not fall specifically into one of the buckets that we've talked about today, I encourage you to reach out to the Division of Small Business. And Andrea, if you could help me and put the link for the Delaware Relief Grant in the Zoom chat. Those grants are a little bit more broad in terms of what they're looking for. For example, if you're able to demonstrate that you have been impacted by COVID-19, that grant will assist you with reimbursement for PPE, for example. You are able to identify what it is that you need in terms of being able to successfully continue to run your nonprofit or your small business. And you can submit those grants through the Delaware Relief Fund. That's a $100 million fund as of right now that's specifically designed to help nonprofits and small businesses throughout the state. They have assistance with folks that, they are providing technical assistance as well as application assistance through their office. They are also looking to get money out to nonprofits and small businesses as soon as possible. I believe it officially launches on Friday. So we are now at the time in our program where we can open it back up for questions or comments from all of you. Are there any questions regarding any of the funding opportunities, how this works? Do you have questions regarding treasury regulations, et cetera? We can address those right now.
Hi, this is Megan Walls. I have a question about the health equity and health disparities grant money. I work in the healthcare system, and one of the things that I'm thinking about are some of the I think like underlying health disparities we know exist that are having communities have higher rates of COVID, but thinking about what else we can do besides direct, I guess, COVID interventions. And I'm wondering about the rules of funding around things like making sure those communities have flu shots or other preventive health that we know would make them less susceptible to being very ill or dying from COVID.
Would you like to?
That will be, yes, that will be an initiative that we would consider as a committee. So I would say, please submit your proposal with your application.
Awesome, thank you.
Do we have any other questions regarding the county's funding opportunities or the state relief grant, housing grant? Okay, seeing none, I'll just give it a few more minutes because some folks may need to find their mute button.
Well, we're doing that, Tamara. One point I wanted to reiterate, I think you mentioned it earlier, but I think it's important as you're considering these opportunities. At this point, the funds received must be expended by December 30th. So as you consider projects or programs that you think might fit in nicely into one of these categories, focus on those things that could be started and completed within that relatively short timeline. It's possible that that deadline will get changed, but that is going to require federal, action at the federal level. And so we are proceeding with the assumption that at this point, all funds need to be expended by December 30th.
Thank you. That's an important point. And I just wanted to go to the chat just to clarify. I see a comment regarding including other organizations, animal shelters and other animal centers that provide the same service as Faithful Friends. So since this funding is not an actual budget line item, anyone that's interested in receiving a grant would need to apply, need to request the funding. This would absolutely be open to any association that provides the same service. But of course, it is a grant application, so they would need to complete the application, submit the documents that are required so that they can be considered. But this would be open to all organizations. Thank you for that comment. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat. I don't see any. And so if there are no further questions, the recording of this particular meeting, we will add to the CARES Act page on the Newcastle County website. Our contact information is there, the links for the application, as well as the notice of funding opportunities. So it lists of all of the criteria, examples of what we're looking for are all listed there. Deadline information is all listed there. From the county website, there's also links to get you to the Delaware Relief Grant if you are interested in learning more about that as well. And again, the goal is to, we have to spend all the money by December the 30th. But we want to begin to disperse funding for these particular grants as soon as possible. And so we will begin to review applications as soon as that deadline hits. And we ideally, if we don't need anything else from you, you'll get an automatic response to your application, but you should hear back from us that you've moved on to the next process. I would say probably within 48 hours after the deadline. 48 to 72 hours. Again, the goal is to get money out by the end of the month. And so if there are no other questions, I appreciate y'all spending your Wednesday afternoon with me. Reach out to us if you do come up with questions after this call. You can also contact us on Facebook or any of the social media options that you use. I think we're on all of them now. Except, I don't know, we've got to get the county executive on TikTok, Andrea. Just kidding. Thank you, guys. Let us know if you have any questions. We appreciate your interest. We appreciate your participation in making sure that Newcastle County is better than when we, better after COVID than when we were going into COVID. So thank you so much. And we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.